You are listening to the Success Leaves Clues podcast,
where we're having conversations with regular people doing outstanding and legacy-changing things in corporate America and entrepreneurship.
If you're looking for the blueprint to help you make less mistakes on your journey to freedom and ultimate purpose, then this is the podcast for you.
And now, here's your host, Dr. K.
Dr. Dwight, thank you for joining me. Thanks for being on the show. I want to talk about so many great things that you've been able to accomplish, most recently your book.
Yeah, man, it's been good, man. First of all, man, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be up here for everybody that's watching and logging in. Newest book actually is a co-authorship with Les Brown. And so I've been kind of in the speaking space and really trying to figure out what the next level was like. And so I was able to go on like a short book signing tour with him. And it's a co-authorship, so it's about 12 authors. We all have our own chapter. So that was the first time I had done anything like this kind of anthology, but it was good because everybody had different backgrounds, different stories. And the theme of the book was called the comeback, right? And so it's everybody's comeback story from some type of failure, some type of setback. So it was good to be able to connect, good to be able to get that message out. You know, I'm better now than I was then. And so just be able to let people know, man, it was a rough trip, but we made it, you know?
Yeah, that's right on time because, so many people don't share their comeback story. It just seems like so many successful people not arrived, but were always in that state. They've always been successful. They've always been where they're at. And it's kind of hard to see yourself being successful when you're in a bad situation at the moment.
Yeah, I feel you. And I think for me, it is not just being able to share it. And I love to share a little bit of it, but share it. But then also just make that part of the story, right? At this point, it's not like I was there, I'm here. It's like I was there, I'm here. Just gonna have some bumps too. Like this not gonna be perfect. I'm expecting something not to go right, so that now when it happens, it doesn't catch you off guard, right? So when the deal doesn't go through, or the money or the investment backfires, or the team is not together, it's not like I failed. It's like this is part of the process. And when you know it's part of the process, you kind of use it to get to the next level, next step.
Yeah, Dr. Dwight, you're right. A lot of people think of success as a destination and as opposed to that journey. And you bring up a good point that it continues. Even right now, you may still face obstacles, but you're probably more equipped now to handle those and overcome them.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I do coaching for coaches and coaching for speakers. And one of the things I talk about, and it's not my original idea. I can't remember if I read it or if I heard it, but I held on to it. And it was, make sure you hit your first 50, right? And it's like, so now I've repackaged it and I call it 50 fast. And it's like, get your 50 rejections out of the way. Like, get your first 50 no's out of the way. Like, get your first 50. You're not good enough. You're not going to make it. Like, get that first 50 of those out of the way. And then success might be a little bit closer, opposed to expecting everything to be good right out of the gate, perfect right out of the gate, everybody with you right out of the gate. I'm like, no, let's go ahead and get these first 50 rejections, no's, bad, and then start expecting something good to happen.
Yeah. How do you deal with that type of rejection? Because it takes a lot of resilience to get through 50 rejections.
No, you're right. I think part of it is knowing it, right? I think sometimes rejection catches you off guard. And when you have these high expectations that the family and friends, that the people who are familiar with you are going to be with you, and then they're not, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know that was going to go down like that. But if we tell you right out of the gate, and I'm saying it, at least from my experience, expect it. Then when you expected it, it doesn't catch you off guard or hurt as much. I mean, you're a little disappointed, but it's not the same. It's like if somebody was standing around the corner, if they just jumped out, you might be scared because you didn't know they were there. But if you know they're there when they jump out, you laugh like, I already knew you were there, and you kind of keep moving. So I feel the same. I think a lot of times because people only talk about their success, people that's trying to come up, they don't know about the struggles. So when it happens, it literally shocks them off the step, shocks them outside of their framework. It moves them outside of what they're supposed to do. So I think for me, it was, okay, this is happening and it keeps happening. This must be part of the process.
Absolutely. And why speaking? How did you get into speaking and get into the business of speaking, not just being a speaker?
Yeah, that's good. So honestly, man, I started out as coach. And so I was doing executive coaching and helping people launch businesses. And eventually it got good. I mean, it was tough in the beginning. Let me start there. Let me give you this real. It was rough. I had all of these clients that were for free, right? Everybody's like, I'm going to pay you later. And they were succeeding. It was working. And so I knew my program was working, but I wasn't seeing the benefits from it. And so eventually made some tweets, connected with the right people, did some John Maxwell training, connected with some other coaches, and the business jumped almost to the point where I needed to train somebody on how to do what I was doing. And eventually that shifted my whole business model to now, instead of just coaching, I was actually coaching coaches on how to coach. And as I was doing it, I had more opportunity to talk to larger groups. And eventually I was like, wait a minute, okay, this is a whole different thing. Now I'm not just coaching coaches, I'm actually speaking to coaches. And that's what led me to really pursue studying what speaking was like, different from coaching. And so I started the Next Level program and connected with Eric Thomas, Jeremy Anderson, and that whole crew. And they legit took it to the next level. And so now for me, I speak to get more coaches, and then I coach so that I can help people maximize their potential and actually get started.
So then you got into a program with Next Level?
Yeah, man. So Eric Thomas, motivational speaker, Jeremy Anderson, and those guys were doing it big. And they introduced me to speaking as an industry, not just speaking to sell. And so that was kind of a game changer. The value went up, the strategy, storytelling increased, and I was able to impact more people at a different level. And so I would recommend it. I recommend speaking as an industry business for every person. But even if you don't do it as a business, I recommend at least taking some classes or a course, a master class on it, because there is no business, there is no industry where you don't have to speak. You know, if you arrive at any level, you want to know how to communicate. So you want to know how to include stories appropriately. You want to know how to articulate your message, not just saying it, but saying it in a way that people can get it.
Yeah, you're right about effective communication is going to help determine your success. Can you tell me a little bit about what it means to be a speaker? Because I hear the term, but I don't really know exactly what. How do you make a business or a career out of speaking?
Yeah, that's good. So first of all, let me just say, for me, where I'm speaking, when I say speak, like, I'm getting paid to speak at schools. So a school assembly, I may get paid to speak at a professional development. So I'm doing training. That kind of comes under speaking. I'll speak for corporations. You know, corporations and businesses, they'll bring their teams together for end of the year award celebrations or beginning of the year, kicking off a school year or kicking off a quarter. They'll do Christmas parties. They'll do fundraising galas. Right. So anywhere people need to be encouraged, empowered, motivated, or depending on your niche, I mean, they actually may need whatever your framework is. Like if you are in the, social anxiety space where you're just trying to help people communicate with each other. For me, I speak to middle management. I help people who are middle management level up, because you don't have to stay in middle management. You deserve to be the CEO. You deserve to run your own. You deserve to be an entrepreneur. And so I take my middle management message to corporations, then also to schools, and say, hey, I know you're a teacher now, but you deserve to be an admin, right? Or as an administrator, you deserve to be in central office. So my whole message is don't get stuck, right? We want to make sure we deal with delay and help you maximize your potential.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. And that's what you mean by every industry. So for me, for example, I'm in the IT space. And so I understand sometimes you have to be able to communicate with the shareholders to see what is it that they want with this software development or anything like that. You can't communicate effectively. So I can see how that touches just every spectrum.
Absolutely. And in your space, right? I'm a computer science major. So I started out doing programming, web design, those type of things. And like I know, man, some of those presentations and conferences they send us to can be boring because it's just content. A speaker who's trained will come in and take that content, wrap some stories around it, and make it a lot more palatable, make it easy to understand, make it a little more entertaining. So when you leave out, it's not just a board full of stats, but it is stats that have some real outcome. So now we're not just doing the IT. It's not just security. It's not just engineering. It is how you change a life. Now, what you're building is going to help somebody in their home be more efficient. Or the programming that you're doing is going to help somebody's business make a product that's going to help out a country or a third world country. So the stories really help bring the message to life. So I think speaking is something everybody should at least look at as either a business or just kind of training. Now, let me say this on the business side that I didn't know. I didn't realize people were getting paid for speaking. I'm talking like for me, $5,500, $7,500, $10,000 for like a 35, 40-minute speech. And my mentors are getting 40, 50,000 for just a 45-minute talk. And so obviously, you build your niche, you build your network, and you have to be good at what you do. But when we say it's a business, now we're not talking like $200, $500 in engagement. We're talking about salaries,
Well, that's incredible. I didn't realize that you can really get paid from speaking. Anytime I've known of or seen people speak, it's maybe at work or at a conference or things like that are mostly voluntary.
Right. So I think I came into it that way. And honestly, by trade, man, I am a pastor. So I have been speaking in that way, preaching, and we get compensated for that at a certain level. But obviously we do that for the love of helping people. Yeah. And even in the speaking, I do it to impact lives. But what I found is people put a premium on good quality motivation. I mean, because at the end of the day, from elementary school, they've been telling us if you believe it, you can achieve it. But people don't believe. So, you hire people, but they don't really believe that they can work, or they're not motivated to work, or they don't like their coworkers, or like for me, they get stuck. And it's like, hey, I got this job, entry level, I'm good. But their employers want them to see themselves at the next level, but the employers don't have time to do it. Right? Because employers, whenever they speak to them, they're talking systems and they're talking what's going on in the business. They're talking corporate. In education, when administrators are talking to the teachers, they're trying to get them ready for SATs and SOLs and behavior. So they don't have anybody that's actually reaffirming why they work there and who they are and what they can be. And if you aren't in any real faith space, there aren't a whole lot of places where you're getting that type of inspiration and motivation. So
exactly,
so businesses are paying people to come in and do those things.
Yeah. How did you? So you talk about computer science and even being a pastor by trade. How did you get to a point where you were a speaker? And did you set out to do that?
Yeah. So I set out to coach, to be honest, because I think the pastor in me, even in corporate spaces, still wanted to walk along with people. Like I could come and speak, but I wanted to kind of see the progress, coach them along the way, mentor them along the way, disciple them, as it were. But the speaking allowed me to reach people who I realized for me aren't really coming to church. Like they may not ever come. I wasn't evangelizing that they should come, but I could take that impact and that message into corporate spaces and into factories and into offices and into classrooms. So for me, it became this whole, it wasn't just like marketplace ministry. I heard people say that. For me, it was like, this is what I called to do. Like, I'm not necessarily called to pastor only. I'm called to maximize people's potential. And so when I was able to make that shift in the speaking, it was, hey, take this gift skill that you've been using in this one sector and let's take it over in this other sector. Tweak the presentation, take the scripture out, maybe not be as strong on the faith side, but the message is the same, right? Look, you can do it. You need to get up. Let your past be your past. You've been stuck on the pain of what happened yesterday, but yesterday is over. You can't unscramble those eggs. Let's get it. Let's go forward. What's next? I mean, that message resonates across the board. And the more people that I ran into who would actually say, hey, I was really getting ready to give up on my marriage, give up on my kids, give up on my job. And what you said helped. I think that started to fuel something for me to actually see the value in the speaking industry and the speaking business. And then, I mean, some side perks too, right? The pay, the travel, getting to meet people in different spaces. Because again, for most people, wherever you were, you only talk to the people that's in your sector and the friends you knew maybe growing up and in school. But the speaking, for me, which I think happens for each person, is it puts you in these other spaces. So now you're learning things across vocation. So now I'm taking things from the tech sector. I'm taking things from the athletic sector. I'm taking things from the media sector. And I got all of these ideas that I can bring back to my own sector, and it's making everything work better.
Yeah, you talk a little bit of the rewarding part you're talking about and how you bring these things back. Bits and pieces back to your own sector. And, I do a Bible study every Monday. So this morning, I have a men's Bible study group that we get together. And even though, and I'm relating this to what you're saying, even though I'm speaking sometimes to them, it's ministering to me. It's just as important to me, and I'm taking something from it. Do you find it's the same thing for you when you're on stage or coaching people?
Absolutely. I can, now that I know you're doing Bible studies, I can go hard on it, right? You can feel God in the moment as much as I feel it on a Sunday or on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night. Like you can, it's the same feeling. It's just a different group. And then you walk away knowing that you led somebody to Christ, even if they don't know that's where they're headed, because you may not have said it that direct, right? You're leading them off of a path that would have destroyed them, their family, their work. And for me, my actual niche is what I call kingdompreneurs. So our motto is let's impact lives and increase our income so that we can provide low to no cost ministry, right? Yeah. So we make the corporate money so that we can come back and do ministry without having to charge a lot for ministry. So now we can feed more people. We can buy more bikes. We can have less fundraising at church, and we can actually do the ministry.
Wow, that's incredible. And I think that's a good way to look at it too, and a good strategy, if I say that, because tithing and offering one thing, but I think people do sometimes get inundated with fundraising at church, and they're like, "Well, man, I've kind of given all they feel they can give at that moment," so they might feel a little tapped out.
Yeah, I think that happens. I think it happens everywhere, but definitely in church. And I really for me, I really believe that instead of the church being the entity or organization that asks, I think we should legit be lenders, not borrowers, right? So I remember this movie, I think it was called Last Shot. It's a long shot. Ice Cube was in it, and his niece was playing football. She was a quarterback. And it was a small part of the movie, but their little league football team got the chance to go play like in Florida or somewhere. And in the movie, I remember showing it to our church. In the movie, they used the church bus to take the team to Florida. And I was like, that's it. Like, we don't want to be the people asking for things. We want to be the people come to ask. I want the school system to ask us for $60,000, right? I want the city to have to come to us to ask if we can help them opposed to us going to help. And the only way I think you can do that is you got to have people strategically in places who have made this income in corporate spaces, but are still connected to their church and they're not leaving it. So I have found that speaking is one of those ways. That speaking gives me the network. And so Paul, I'm traveling all of these places, is giving the income, but then I get to come back home and, Acts style, share it all with everybody. And now everybody can get what they need so that we can all be what God wants. So man, it has been powerful for me and so many others. I think the other part for me is there were so many people that were strong in their faith in the speaking space. I didn't know that existed. Right. And you won't know until you start doing the speaking.
So you said you didn't know so many people were strong in their faith in the speaking space. And I kind of get that in kind of all aspects, right? So I was in the military, so I was in the Army, and I was taught to separate, the religious aspect. You don't talk about things like that. And when I got out the Army, I moved into, corporate America, and same thing, right? You don't talk about religion, obviously in politics too. You kind of keep those things separate. So I became a person that really hid my passion, that hid my belief, that hid God, and, sharing these type of things. And so how do you get to a point where you can still help people, minister to people, and not cross the line to where you're maybe impacting their corporation?
Yeah, it's good. I think faith is more than words and T-shirts and posters. I think people feel it. I think even when I speak now, I'll quote something that may be scripture without saying it's scripture. Okay. And if you don't know, you don't know. But if you do know, it's like, oh, I see what he just did there, right? And I think people can feel it to a point where you get to have now a personal conversation. So again, if you can just imagine speaking somewhere, then after you speak, people are coming up afterwards, maybe sharing their thoughts, sharing the impact. And in that moment, you can then share privately what you couldn't have shared publicly. Right. Okay. And then I think if you do it well, like we've seen with many athletes, I'll say it with Eric Thomas, ET, with Jeremy Anderson, that after you really rise to a certain level, whatever that is, it's not the same for everybody. You then have a platform. And then with that platform, you can do what you want with it, right? So you might have to be a little more hush-hush on the come up. But once you get to a certain space, it's like, look, I'm here. Then let me tell you how I got here. God did this, right? It was the Spirit working through me. It was the church praying for me. And so we've seen that with so many athletes who we didn't know had strong faith. But by the time they get to the Super Bowl and now they get an interview, they're like, now let me go ahead and tell you what really happened. Or once they win the NBA championship, it's now, while you losing, nobody's listening anyway. Right? But if you can use that speaking platform, coaching platform, or even these podcast platforms, it gives you a space to be able to share that faith.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's you were talking about the book that you have co-authorship in, and most books are written by one, maybe two people. What was the most impactful thing for you writing a book with 12 different people?
So I think for me was us getting together. So we wrote the book, but then we had this weekend. We all came together to meet each other and to see the people behind the story, sit down, eat, photos, videos, book signings with Les. I think that was impactful because they were so different. And again, you're in the military, so you may know, but I don't know if the group of people who wrote that book would have been people who talked to each other, hung out together, had it not been for that book.
Outside of that.
Yeah. What we do, life stage, age, race, culture, beliefs. It was so diverse, but the book brought us all together. So I think it was the inclusion of so many different cultures and ways of thinking. But the one thing was true for all of us. We all had a struggle that we had to come back from.
Got it. And then when y'all go out on tour, is it certain people in certain cities, or are the 12 of you coming together for that?
Yeah, so he lets us kind of know where he's going to be, and then we all have the opportunity to go to wherever that's going to be. So the last space, he was in Miami. So he's like, hey, I'm going to be in Miami doing the book. So whoever could make it, whoever wanted to make it, could go. Now, I'll say this. Everybody who did the book, they weren't necessarily speakers, right?
Okay.
And so it's different for every person. So for myself, I'm going, but I'm also a speaker. So I have some packaging, I have an offer, I have some things people can connect to. A few of them were coming, and the authorship was kind of their claim to fame. And so the book was kind of what they were selling. And some people just came because it was just good to be around, So it was really based on availability. He would choose the places, and we could kind of go to wherever he was. And then whatever we had to offer, we could do it there.
Got it. It makes a lot of sense. When you, what do you have next is coming up as far as your book, your coaching program, and even speaking engagement?
Yeah. So actually, man, we have Les coming to us. I'm not sure when you guys will hear this, but March 28th and 29th, Les is actually coming to Virginia, where I am, and coming to our church for a 2-day conference. So kind of bringing the tour here, which would be phenomenal and exciting. And then outside of that, I actually have ongoing enrollment into the coaching program. So as I said earlier, my whole thing is maximize the potential of others and individuals. And so the coaching program is where I get to coach coaches and coach speakers on how to launch a $10,000 coaching or speaking business in 2 months. And so, every Thursday we have a call, every Monday we have a call. We do masterminds occasionally, and at the masterminds, we get to put people on stage, let them kind of rehearse, but then also get footage. One thing Jeremy talks about, and I think is really good, is that people book people who are speaking, not who want to speak. Yeah. And it's kind of that, it's kind of that catch-22. It's like, but if I'm just starting, then how do I prove I'm speaking? And so we actually put people on the stage, get the videos, get the footage, get the photos, get the practice, so that by the time they go out pitching themselves or people want them, they actually have some evidence, right, and some runs to say, I have done this. And so that's probably what's coming up for us. Again, that's ongoing. The March 28th, 29th is probably the hard date that we have coming up.
All right. So I'll make sure we get that out as much as possible, because I want people to have the opportunity to be able to attend and get a chance to see and be a part of that. I think it'll be a fantastic event.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. I'd love for you to make it if you can get out. I know we close 757-804.
Yeah, I'm down the street. So it's in Newport News or Norfolk side?
Yeah, Newport News.
Oh, you're on the right side of the tunnel, man. I can make it there.
Yeah, it's going to take you a little time to get across the other ones, right?
Yeah. I could do something like that. I want to dig in a little bit more on your coaching program and just understand what you're developing and how people can best utilize a coaching program.
Yeah, that's good. So let me say this, whether it's me or anybody else, here's what I believe. I believe every coach, honestly, every business, but let me just speak to coaches and speakers. Every coach has 4 things I think you need. Now, I have this old basketball motif in my head. I'm a baller. I don't know if my legs believe it, but in my mind, that's still true. And so I think everybody needs what we call a give and go, which is kind of your lead generator, something that's like a free ebook, free something that just builds leads, but it also gives people a chance to connect with you and hear how you think, hear your best practices, hear where you're headed. And so the first thing we do is we help you build out that book, that list, that product, and build a landing page. That's really important because once people, you know, as you know, and some of us probably in people's funnels, you know, you put your email in, you hit submit, you get the download, but then they automatically give and go to an upsell, right? And so now it's kind of like, all right, now maybe you want a course for $47 or a course for $249. So the first thing I think everybody needs is some type of lead generator where you're giving something away for free and you lead people into your network. The second we call the ISO. So it's ISO, which is your irresistible signature offer. Now, this is your online course. This is, I don't know how many people you're going to talk to in a month, but what are like the 6 to 10 things that you tell everybody, like no matter who they are, like what are your core principles? Because essentially that's your coaching package, right? That's your coaching framework. You know, we want to come up with a name and create a community mascot, but at the end of the day, that's it. And if you can get that recorded in some videos, maybe add some questions to it, then you have an active product that you can give people and sell and really scale, right? I think that course is big because one, let's say somebody wants to do long-term coaching with you, send them to the course first. The course vets them. One, they pay for it, so now you know that they're willing to pay. But then two, they're learning the basic information that you were going to tell them anyway. So now y'all have the same vocabulary, you're on the same page. So by the time they get to something that may be heavier, you guys are at least walking in the same path. And, you know, I'm big on how can two walk together unless they agree. So let's get to this space where we walk in the same path. The third thing is packaging you. Like, who are you? What is it that you offer? What are your keynotes? What does your professional development look like? What is your 3 to 5, 7 word framework, you know, for what you do? So mine is fly. My whole motif is you've been delayed in life, but it's time to fly. Like, focus forward, learn, don't lose, and say yes to your turn. It's a quick framework, but I can unpack it for days. Okay. And so you want to figure out like what yours is. And what we do in our coaching program is we help you get that. But again, outside of, you know, my program, figure out what yours is and then start building that. And then the last thing we do is what we call a huddle. And a huddle is some type of subscription where people can connect with you, even if they don't want to commit, right? So it's $47.99 a month. You know, they get emails, they get text messages, they know when you're doing things, they get some discounts. So they're not all in, but they still want to stay close enough where you're not too far. And Dr. K, my imagery has always been this, man. Water, like right now, water is free. Yes. Like at your house is free, out of your faucet, from your refrigerator, it is absolutely free. But somebody put it in a bottle and we started paying for it, right? I mean, so you're paying like $1, $3, $5, maybe $7, depending on where you get it, airport or game. And I think that the information that speakers, coaches, and businesses have is free work. So when they package it right, it adds value, right? One, when you package it, you can hand it to people. Like right now, I don't know how much information people have, but I can't get that information unless you come to where I am. Yeah. But if you package it, right? If you package it, ebook, online course, speaking, professional development, like whatever that is, package it, then you can give it to people in Walmart. Like, hey, go to this link or book me here or go. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are giving that free water away when all they really needed to do was bottle it up and package it. So our coaching program helps people bottle all this information, all of these random ideas into a cohesive package program that you can then give, charge for, and impact lives with.
Man, I really like that. You got to have the water analogy because you got to have systems and processes in order for something to have the value, right? You can speak it, talk it all day long, but until you're polished and and you take it serious, right? You packaging it up is you taking your business and your opportunity serious.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's this quote, man, I love. Michael Gerber. He says that systems allow ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results predictably. And that's the part, man. At the end of the day, I learned earlier that every business you create, it should be built where you can sell it to somebody else, right? Yeah. Everything you do should have some type of system where if somebody comes on board, you should be able to say, hey, here's what we do. And I think a lot of us miss out on that. We're like, hey, I'm going to start a business and it's just you working, right? It's just me doing everything. And somebody wants to help, they can't even help because we don't even know what to handle. Like we don't know how we do what we do. And so I think you're right, man. The systems are huge, and they are the difference between a startup and I think scaling and finding success at high levels.
Yeah. The coaching program, putting together processes, I think that's valuable. I think that can also tie in, like you said, with the speaking. That can also tie in to just about any business, right? Because putting that type of program together, you can help other people. But you can also help train and develop the people that's within your organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So now what you're doing is franchising, right, in your own way. Because everybody who comes in, so let's say for us, you can come in and we can coach and teach you on how to start your own. But because you're learning it from us, you're now in a position where you could actually be hired to be on our team, right, because you learned it from us. And I think when you talk about the speaking portion, I mean, if you can imagine, that ISO where you pick your 6 to 10 things, if you pick out 6 to 10 things that you coach on, what we recommend is those be the 6 to 10 things you speak on. So now when you go speak, you're not having to come up with a new message. Just take number 3 out of your 6 and now speak on that for 45 minutes or coach on that. So I think you're right. I think the biggest challenge for most people, I know for me and most of my clients, is trying to niche down. Right? Because we're trying to do everything at the same time. And you can do everything, but not at the same time. So that framework works for coaching. It works for speaking. But look, man, it's working for Bible studies. It's working for discipleship, right? This, like our church now has that same model where it's like, okay, what's the series for the week? Okay, we got a 6-week series on this. How are we going to roll it out? Here's the freebie to get people in it. Here's the online course version for people who are off site. Here is the email. Like it's the same system that works for every sector if you can apply it.
Yeah, I see that. So that's a good analogy, good breakdown. And I'm a man of structure. Like I told you, the military background just has me, really into processes and structure. So, I'm on that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I think if you use the military, man, the military has probably been the most organized unit, that we have at all branches. So, I found that there are different skill sets, though. I'll say that. Usually the people who are big dreamers and have big vision don't have the detail and the structure, right? Which is why you need somebody to come alongside you and say, hey, I see everything that you want to do. Now let me help you bundle that so that it can actually be something that works. I see it with churches. Have people like, God told me to plan a church. I was like, okay, great. But they don't know how to do the admin part because that's structure. Right? It's the experience and structure. Those are often enemies, but they don't have to be. And I think in our businesses, on our jobs, because some of you listening to this, you're like, I want to start a business. Well, even on your job, like, what's the system? Like, how does it work? And there's this guy, man, named Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone does the whole 10X. Mm-hmm. And before meeting him, John Maxwell did 12X. And the system and the idea is the same. Here's what they think. They think and believe that if you have a system, if you figure out what you do for a year and figure out how you did it and systemize the 12 months, whatever you did in 12 months, you should be able to do it in 1 month. So now your 12-month impact is happening in 1 month. Your 12-month income is happening in 1 month, which means what you used to do in a year, you're doing every month. And you 12x your income, 12x your impact, 12x the number of people you're able to serve. Because at the end of the day, you had a system and it wasn't just a whole lot of random acts.
Yeah, you can put a key focus on the income producing activities and the things that's actually going to propel you forward. Sometimes we get distracted, right? There's a lot of noise going on around us and we're looking left and right.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think you can do it all by yourself. I know for me, like I'm a coach, I coach coaches, but I need a coach. Right? Sometimes the stuff I'm telling other people, I cannot figure it out for myself to save my life. Like I had to have somebody on the outside, coming back saying, hey, you need to check on this. You need to you said you were going to do this. Is it done?
Yeah.
And that just reinforced accountability, I think, is a game changer.
Yeah, I think it's important for, I personally probably wouldn't even take a coach or a mentor if they didn't have a coach. right? Somebody's always got to be pouring into you, or you're just going to be an empty vessel, right? You're continuing to grow and continuing to pour into, your students and the people that you're coaching and mentoring and developing. So it's important that you have that same thing.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think I thought about it like that, but that's a good way to say it. Like, you probably shouldn't get a coach who doesn't have a coach, right? Or you shouldn't be speaking if you're not connected to a speaker who somebody taught to speak. Yeah. So just those levels of accountability kind of keep us. And we talk about this, Dr. K, too, man. We talk about how you should have people who pour into you, and then people who are peers with you, and then somebody that's pulling from you, right? So you're being coach, mentor. You got somebody you can just talk to it about, but then you're also coaching and mentoring somebody else. And all three of those levels, I think, give us some stability in bouncing back from hardship, but then also stabilizing success where it don't get to your head and you think you'd have arrived, because it's still somebody always, it's always somebody like, I'm not impressed with anything you do. And they push you to the next level.
Yeah. Man, Dr. Dwight, I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm getting so much. I'm going to check my schedule, but I highly intend on being at the conference you're having on the 28th. So I'm excited, looking forward to that. I just I'm going to put your links in the description. Make sure people know how to get in touch with you. Make sure people can understand how to put their processes and maybe get with Dr. Dwight so that they can bottle their stuff up.
Yeah, man. I definitely appreciate that. And I love the idea of success loves clues, man. That is awesome. Appreciate you sharing your platform. And for everybody that's connected, y'all make sure y'all stay connected with Dr. K. He's giving y'all gems out here and connecting you to information that is game changer. Here's the key. Don't just listen to it. Figure out one thing you can do based on every time you listen to his podcast. Every time you listen to whatever he's sharing, whoever he brings on. Like, when you get off, ask yourself, okay, what's the one thing I'm going to do to be a little bit more productive, a little bit more, move a little bit further, and get to your next space. Dr. K, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for
That's right. I know we're wrapping up, but something you just said just popped in my head. Look. So in your breakdown for the coaching program, I think it was number 2, and you talked about sometimes before going into the mentorship, having them take the online course. And it comes back to action, the same thing you're saying right now. Listen to the podcast. Listen to the things Dr. Dwight is telling you, and then take actionable steps that you can do to propel yourself and get forward. Listen, the last thing a coach or a mentor, somebody that's high level like Dr. Dwight, wants to do is waste their time. They're going to pour into you. They're going to help you. But take that online course so that you can see that you're committed, see that you're willing to take the action and do the things. So then now you can get yourself a mentor, somebody to help take you to the next level, like Dr. Dwight.
Yeah, that's good. And Dr. K, that's crazy you said that, man. I saw it online, Instagram post somewhere, but it was sometimes you have to be mentored before you can get mentored, right? Like, you might have to start off with somebody who's closer to where you are before you get to the top tier people. So I know for me, like, I started with John Maxwell. That was my introduction. And the way his program is set up, you don't get to him directly. You get to the people he trained. But by the time I was able to connect with some of the giants like Les Brown or Eric Thomas, I had already been coached by like 8 or 10 different people in different ways. So when I got to them, some of the things they were saying weren't so foreign because I had, for lack of a better word, some lower level coaches. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think each coach, each mentor, each person kind of propels you to that next level, that next stage. But you got to put in the work, right? It's not an osmosis process. It's not hey, I got on the podcast and I heard it. Like, you got to do something. You got to maximize your potential. We call it make a play. Where I am, I'm like, yo, make a play. I need you to make a play today. Make a play today.
Make a play. Like you said earlier, Dr. Dwight, faith without works is dead. So you can listen to it all day long, but you got to work.
Right. That's it. Look, I'm an Eagles fan, right? And I know I've got some haters. I got some lovers. I'm an Eagles fan. And I've been telling this story about that Saquon play when he did that spin move and then he jumped backwards over the guy. Dude, bananas. And I had a couple guys kind of joking me like, yo, he did all that, but he didn't score a touchdown. He only got 1 yard. I was like, you right. He only got 1 yard. But maybe that's all you need is 1 yard, right? 1 yard today, 1 yard tomorrow, 1 yard the day after that. If you get enough 1 yarders, eventually you're going to score.
Yeah, we're moving the chain. We're moving the chain.
That's all we're trying to do. And, for everybody who's coming onto the podcast, Dr. K is handing you the rock. Make your move. and then just get a yard today, a yard tomorrow, the yard after that. Before you know it, you're holding up Super Bowl rings.
Hey. All right. I appreciate you, Dr. Dwight.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you too. Everybody else on there. Y'all have a good one. All right.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Success Leaves Clues podcast.
Be sure to follow Dr. K on Instagram at Dr. K Washington or the podcast page at Success Leaves Clues Podcast. We'll see you here next time.